Stride Audio Show.
Presented by Speak English with Us.
You said something perfectly correct in English, and the other person just nodded, smiled, and walked away. What just happened?
That feeling is so specific. Your grammar was fine, your pronunciation was fine, but the conversation just died.
And that's exactly what we're tackling today. This is English Stride, and I'm Maya.
And I'm Leo. This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. But hey, if you're a beginner, you're welcome too. Stick around.
So here's the real problem. Most of us learn English to pass tests, right? We learn how to make correct sentences, but correct sentences don't always keep the conversation going.
Right. There's a huge gap between grammatically correct and conversationally alive. And today, we're closing that gap.
And here's what we discovered. It's not about your vocabulary. It's not about your accent. It's about one tiny thing you're doing, or not doing, at the end of every sentence.
It's almost embarrassingly simple. But once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Okay, quick question before we dive in, and I want you to actually think about this. When someone asks, "How was your weekend?" do you say, A, "It was good, thanks," or B, "It was actually really fun. We went hiking." Do you ever do stuff like that? Drop your answer in the comments right now, A or B.
Because that choice, that's the whole episode right there.
We're going to walk you through exactly how to turn a dead-end sentence into an open-ended invitation without memorizing new vocabulary or rehearsing long speeches.
And stay until the end, because we've got our word tour, 5 expressions that'll completely change how you pitch in during real conversations.
We're guessing right now. You're probably on your commute, maybe walking, maybe making coffee. Whatever you're doing, this episode is going to change the way you speak today.
And later, we're going to do a full role play. I'm going to say something real, and Maya is going to pick up on exactly what goes wrong. It gets a little uncomfortable for me.
Just a little. But first, let's talk about why this keeps happening and why it's not your fault. Let's start with a real scene. You're at a friend's birthday, someone asks about your weekend, and you say, "I went hiking." Full stop. And then the air just sits there.
I know that moment. You can almost hear the conversation doing a little faceplant. No one's confused, but no one knows where to go next.
Exactly. The sentence was correct, but it wasn't open-ended. It didn't invite anything back. It didn't give the other person a place to land.
And people feel that more than they analyze it. They don't sit there thinking, yes, closed structure. They just feel the door shut.
That's why this episode is so important. The problem isn't that your English is bad. The problem is that your sentence can be informational without being conversational.
And that can feel weirdly personal. You think, did I sound boring? Did I say too little? Did I sound cold? But usually you just ended the exchange too neatly.
In linguistics, we'd call this a conversational invitation structure. Fancy name, simple idea. Leave a little opening so the other person can step in.
So instead of tossing a brick, you hand them a door handle.
That's actually not a bad image. A brick is a closed sentence. A door handle is a sentence with a little follow-up built in.
Like, I went hiking last weekend. Have you ever tried the trails near here? Same basic meaning, but now the other person has something to catch.
Yes, you didn't add much length. You added direction, and direction is what keeps the conversation going.
Let's make it practical. Imagine you're talking to a coworker at lunch. You say, "I was up late finishing a report." That's true, but it's closed.
Stop there. Closed sentences are the trap. They tell, but they don't invite. Try, "I was up late finishing a report." Do you ever end up working that late?
Okay, that already sounds less like a statement and more like a real human being.
Exactly. You're not performing perfect English. You're building a bridge.
And here's another one. At a weekend brunch, you say, I found that new cafe. Fine. But if you say, I found that new cafe, have you been there yet? Suddenly, there's space for the other person to jump in.
That tiny space matters. People love easy entry points. If your sentence gives them one, they often take it.
And if it doesn't, they may still like you, but they'll keep moving. Not because they dislike you, just because the conversation had nowhere to go.
Let's test this with the second pattern. Instead of just reporting information, add your feeling and then hand the ball over. Like, I found the meeting pretty draining, honestly. How do you usually recover after a long day?
That feels more alive. It's personal, but not heavy. It's open-ended, but not dramatic.
And it gives the other person a safe way to pitch in. They don't need a perfect answer, they just need something real.
This is the part I wish someone had told me earlier. I used to think I needed better grammar. Really, I needed better sentence endings.
Same. And if you've ever felt ignored after speaking, that sting is real, but the fix is often tiny. Not bigger English, just more inviting English.
Let's do a quick drill. I'll say a closed sentence, and you can mentally open it up. I watched a documentary. Now ask yourself, what could I add so the other person has somewhere to go?
You might say, I watched a documentary. Have you seen anything interesting lately? Or, I watched a documentary. It made me think about work-life balance, honestly.
Nice. The first version invites a story. The second version invites a reaction. Both work.
And this is where people start to pick up on the difference. They don't notice the grammar first. They notice the energy.
So yes, your English can be correct and still sound like it's wearing a do not disturb sign.
That's brutal, but accurate.
The good news is you don't need a whole new personality. You just need one little habit. Before you finish a sentence, ask, does this leave room for the other person?
And if the answer is no, you can fix it with one light question, one feeling, one invitation. That's the whole game.
And by the way, there's a phrase for this. It's called open-ended, and we'll break that down later.
Plus, we're going to show you exactly how to follow up without sounding forced. That part matters more than people think.
So if you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, why did that stop so fast? Stay with us.
Okay, so we've established the problem. Your sentences are correct, but closed. Now let's talk about the fix. And Leo, I know you've got some doubts about this approach.
I do, actually. I want to try it first, and then I'll tell you what worries me. Because I think there's a version of this advice that sounds good in theory, but falls apart in real life.
Perfect. Let's do the role play first, then fight about it.
Deal.
Okay, so the scene is this. You're at a casual work lunch. Someone you don't know very well sits across from you. Leo, you start.
So, yeah, I had a pretty busy week. I finished that project finally.
Freeze, right there. What just happened?
I told you I was busy. Gave you a fact. Then, nothing.
Exactly. The sentence landed and then just sat there sweating. No opening, no invitation. The other person is basically frozen. They don't know whether to congratulate you, ask about the project, or just nod and look at their food.
I've been that person looking at my food. It's uncomfortable for everyone.
So here are two native ways to open that same sentence up. Option 1. I finally finished that project. It's been weeks. Are you working on anything big right now? You share, then invite. Option 2. I finally finished that project. Honestly, I'm exhausted. Do you ever hit that wall where your brain just stops?
I finally finished that project. Honestly, I'm exhausted. Do you ever hit that wall where your brain just stops?
See how that lands differently? It's personal, it's real, and it gives the other person a place to pitch in with their own experience.
Okay, that genuinely felt different to say. But here's my first concern. Isn't this a bit manipulative? Like we're engineering the conversation to get a certain response.
That's a fair push. But wait, isn't all communication somewhat structured? When you smile at someone, you're signaling, I'm friendly. That's not manipulation. That's just how conversation works.
But smiling is natural. Adding a tag question at the end of every sentence feels like a technique. And techniques can feel fake. If I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I need to add an open-ended question here, am I actually connecting with anyone?
That's a really solid point, and I don't want to brush past it. Yes, in the beginning, it does feel like a technique, but so does any new habit. The first time you learn to say, I'd love to, but instead of just no, it felt weird, right?
Fair. But here's my second concern. What if the other person doesn't want to keep the conversation going? What if they're just not in the mood, and you're lobbing these open-ended questions at them and they just want to eat their sandwich?
Okay, the sandwich person. Yes, they exist, but here's the thing. If someone isn't engaged, your sentence structure isn't the problem and it isn't the solution either. You can't force a connection. What you can do is remove the barrier that you accidentally built by closing the conversation off completely.
So you're saying open-ended sentences don't guarantee engagement, they just stop you from accidentally blocking it?
Exactly. You're not engineering a response. You're just not slamming the door. Big difference.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But here's my third concern, and this one I feel strongest about. This approach assumes the other person will pick up on the cue and respond. But in a lot of real situations, especially cross-cultural ones, the other person might not follow up the way you expect. They might give a one-word answer, and you're back to square one.
That's actually the most important pushback you've made, and I want to be honest. Yes, that happens. You open the sentence up, and they say, oh, cool, and then it's quiet again.
So, the method fails.
No, the method shifts your responsibility, not theirs. Your job isn't to guarantee they respond. Your job is to make it easy for them to respond if they want to. That's the whole idea behind a conversational invitation structure. You issue the invitation, they decide whether to come to the party.
So, it's less about control and more about removing friction?
Yes, think of it this way. If someone keeps the conversation going after you speak, you've done something right. If they don't, at least it wasn't because your sentence gave them no choice but to stop.
That reframe actually helps. Because I think the anxiety most learners feel is, what if I do this right and it still doesn't work? And the answer is, it might not always work. But your odds go up significantly.
And your confidence goes up too. Because you're not just hoping something happens, you're actively creating a space for it.
One more thing I want to add, this isn't just for learners who feel shy. Even really fluent speakers kill conversations without realizing it. I've done it in my own language.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't a language problem, it's a conversation design problem, and anyone can learn to design better.
Okay, I've been convinced. Not completely. I still think there are situations where no technique helps, but I understand the value now.
I'll take 70% convinced. And for the listeners who are still a bit skeptical, that's fine. Try it once today. One conversation, one open-ended ending. See what happens.
And notice whether you feel more relaxed after saying it. Because when your sentence has an exit built in, you stop bracing for silence.
That freeze, that sweating moment where you're standing there wondering if you said the wrong thing, it gets smaller every time.
And that's worth a lot, even if the sandwich person still doesn't talk to you.
The sandwich person is a lost cause. Let's move on. Okay, so we've talked about why conversations die, we've role-played the fix, and we've pushed back on whether it actually works.
And now it's time for the part I genuinely look forward to every episode.
Word tour. 5 expressions we've been using this whole time, and now we're going to break them down properly.
Some of these you probably already picked up on without realizing it.
Let's go. Let's go back to that lunch table moment. Leo says, I finally finished that project. Honestly, I'm exhausted. Do you ever hit that wall where your brain just stops? That's a perfect example of keep the conversation going.
So this one isn't about being fancy. It just means your sentence gives the other person a real place to answer instead of shutting everything down.
Exactly. If I say, I tried a new cafe, have you been there? I'm not just sharing info. I'm inviting a reply. I'm making it easier to keep the conversation going.
And if you don't do that, the other person has to do all the work, which is rude, in a very quiet way.
A little. Now notice what happened in Act 2 when we said, I was up late finishing a report. Do you ever end up working that late? That second part is a follow-up. It's the next step after your main sentence.
So a follow-up is like the small extra piece that keeps the door open.
Yes, it can be a question, a reaction, or a comment that builds on what you just said. I loved the movie. What did you think? That's a follow-up. I'm so tired today. Same for you. That's a follow-up too.
And the great thing is, it doesn't need to be long. In fact, shorter often sounds more natural.
Right, because nobody wants a speech at brunch. Now, let's talk about open-ended. This one matters a lot.
Open-ended means the answer isn't just yes or no, right?
Exactly. If I ask, did you like the trail? The answer can stop at yes. But if I ask, what did you like about the trail? Now the answer has room to breathe. That's open-ended.
So open-ended questions are like wide doors. Closed questions are tiny windows.
Nice image. And remember, in the episode, we said the goal isn't to sound clever. It's to make space. An open-ended phrase makes people feel like they can actually enter the conversation instead of just tapping on the glass.
That's a really good way to put it.
Now here's one you hear all the time in natural talk. Pitch in. When someone pitches in, they add something useful to the conversation. They help move it forward.
So if a group is planning dinner and I say, I can bring dessert, I'm pitching in.
Yes. And in conversation, if one person says, I'm not sure where to go this weekend, and another says, you could try the old market, it's busy but fun, that's pitching in too.
It's not just physical help. It's social help.
That's it. In our story, the conversation becomes better when both people pitch in a little. One person shares, the other adds. One person asks, the other answers. That back and forth is what makes talk feel alive.
And then there's pick up on. This one is subtle but really powerful.
Right. To pick up on something means to notice it and respond to it. If I say, I've been really tired lately, and you pick up on that, you might say, sounds like you've had a rough week. You're noticing the feeling behind the words.
So it's not just hearing the sentence. It's catching the signal inside it.
Exactly. In real conversation, people love when you pick up on their mood, their interest, or the detail they seem to care about most.
Let me try a quick recap in normal conversation style. If I want to keep the conversation going, I add a follow-up. I make it open-ended so the other person can answer freely. Then both of us can pitch in, and I can pick up on what they care about.
That was beautifully natural. Not too polished, not too academic, just usable.
Good, because if I ever sound academic at brunch, someone needs to take my phone away.
Honestly, same. So today's big idea was simple. Your English can be correct and still feel closed. The fix isn't more vocabulary. It's giving people a clear place to answer.
Right? Instead of ending with a neat little full stop, try leaving one small opening. A light question, a quick feeling, a tiny invite that's often enough.
And here are 3 easy moves you can try right away. First, after a statement, add one short question. Second, share a feeling, then ask what they think. Third, listen for one detail you can pick up on and react to it.
So if you say, I tried that new cafe, have you been? Or that meeting was rough, how was yours? You're already practicing.
I love this topic because I've done the closed sentence thing so many times. I leave a conversation feeling strangely invisible, and then I'd blame my English. But often, the language wasn't the problem. The invitation was missing.
Same here. I used to think I needed better answers. Really, I needed better endings. Once I started adding a follow-up, the whole tone changed.
So this week, try one small experiment. Choose one conversation and make your last sentence open-ended. Don't force it, just make room.
And notice what happens when other people get space to pitch in. You may be surprised by how much more natural it feels.
If this episode helped, take one of those 5 expressions. Keep the conversation going. Follow up. Open-ended. Pitch in. Pick up on. And use it today.
Before you go, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments what's one sentence you turn from closed to open-ended.
We read every single comment. Thanks for listening, and next time we'll go even deeper into natural small talk that actually flows.
See you next time.